The school district is getting ready to open a new elementary school this fall and a new middle school next year, as well as making many improvements to existing facilities. These were all made possible by passing a bond issue last year. Without disclosing how you personally voted, what do you feel is the single greatest strength and single greatest challenge the school board may face in the next few years as a result of this bond issue?
I'll be happy to tell you how I voted. It doesn't bother me. I'm proud to say that I voted in favor of it. I thought it was extremely important for the district from a growth perspective. I am involved, or was involved, in helping the district look at different aspects of that bond. I've worked for engineering companies that have done work for this district. So in full disclosure, I think it'd be unfair not to tell you how I voted. But in quite plain, simple English, is this area is a growth mechanism for southern Kansas City, southern Johnson County. And they're very, very well may need to be future bonds, 5, 6, 10 years down the road. Somebody mentioned high school growth and capacity. Really what it comes down to is managing, for me, the bond was about managing the growth for now. But I think the most important aspect of my involvement, if I am elected, is managing the resources for the existing facilities. Those buildings that were built are gorgeous and extremely energy efficient, but there's other buildings in this district that may not be. There may be maintenance costs on parking lots and how we treat those things that I think I can bring some perspective to. But I think it was extremely important at the time that it took place to take place. People may not agree with that, but I think all aspects of that bond, not just the elementary school and middle school, all aspects of that bond were extremely important, including the technology advances and the other athletic advances.
Some of the strengths that I would have to address is the fact that we have such an amazing community that we've got to get behind the school growth, because the biggest challenge really is where are we going to put our future high school students? We're just exploding, and we've got to have financial resources to make that happen. So as far as the strength, I think it's great that the community gets behind that and does whatever we can to do whatever we can to support this.
I also actually voted in favor of the bond, and I would again. I wasn't fully happy about the last bond because it had a couple things in there that I don't think that we needed. But I know we needed a new middle school, and I know we needed a new elementary, and there was no denying that. One of the single greatest strengths I think that we have is the community realizes that we're growing, and they know that we need new schools, and I think we can get 75% votes in favor of future bonds if we make our bonds much more specific and much cleaner, and not filled with everything in the world and some vanity items. If we were to have a bond that said, okay, we need a new high school, and here's all the stuff that goes with it, and it was structurally sound, I think we'd get a huge boost from the community voting for that. So I really would like to see them more focused. And one of the challenges are, the last bond, it was a 50-50 split basically on that bond. And you got to get the community back involved and trust that the school board is actually going to put that funding and take that into consideration on the next bond and get people to trust that.
Okay, next question. School funding is a hot topic in Topeka right now. Based on your current level of understanding of our school district finances as of today, do you feel we need to reduce expenses or increase revenues, and specifically, how would you propose this be accomplished? Again, school funding is a hot topic in Topeka right now. Based on your current level of understanding of our school district finances as of today, do you feel we need to reduce expenses or increase revenues, and specifically, how would you propose this be accomplished?
Wow, that's a deep question. Here's the thing, whether it's education or whether it's any other business, a P&L is a P&L. We can always use some extra resources. So I like to say it'd be nice to increase revenues. Again, continuing to do that through extracurricular activities, that's a possibility. But in truth, as with any good business, you've got to operate within your means. And so I would propose, perhaps, yes, considering how we spend our money, but in education, as with most businesses, your labor is your most expensive variable that you can control. And when you get that labor, the proportions right, then you are able to successfully drop resources, financial resources to the bottom line that make it possible for school districts to cover those expenses. So my proposal would be simply this. We've got to get our salaries of our administration in line with what this district can afford. So that, again, we're not robbing from the teachers, but we've got to start at the top, because trust me, the smallest adjustments can make the greatest impact.
I don't know enough about the budget to say we need to reduce expenses to get to this point, because this is where we're going to be in the future. But there's not enough information there, and I have not looked deep into the budget. What I'm going to say is that I feel that we need to have enough revenue to cover the expenses that we have that are justified. One of the things that the school district's doing now that I think is actually pretty cool and a little enlightening, the Planning and Finance Committee the other day, they were sitting there talking, and they were going over insurance and trying to find ways to actually get those reductions. They were going over bonds and trying to find ways to save money on that. They're looking at possibly being able to save $1.1 million on a different type of bond. And they're opening their minds up and looking for ways to actually accomplish that. They're able to raise some of the deductibles to get better rates on some stuff. And so I think they're actually looking already at cutting expenses and getting those down to an area. And there's probably more. And the good thing is they're asking the questions and they're working on it. And I'd like to see that continue. Once they get down to that, though, at some point, you can only go so far, and you can only stop getting rid of this for so long, and you might have to start increasing revenues.
I think it's pretty simple. You have to look at both, the expense side and the revenue side. And really, I've been involved in a lot of different things that the district has done, and I've seen a lot of things that the district has done, such as refinancing old bond notes to lower interest rates. And those are things that business people look at and do because it's opportunities that maybe the public don't know about. But I've seen significant savings in terms of refinancing bonds. So looking at the expense side is always something that has to be done. But there's also things on the revenue side. And I think that from an economic development standpoint, the district is extremely lucky, at least in my opinion. People may agree or disagree in terms of economic development opportunities for both Gardner and Edgerton. I think that the intermodal in Edgerton is absolutely a phenomenal source of potential revenue. And there are always debated topics about TIF and how things go together. I've been involved in those for my business for the last 17 years, so I bring some type of background. I think you have to focus on both. Economic development is absolutely vital. Working with the cities, both Gardner, both Edgerton, working with the Southwest Johnson County EDC to help promote how we can increase economic development at a minimal impact to the district. I think that's extremely critical.
Dwayne, 2 questions left. Every resident is a shareholder in the success of our school district. What additional investment of time or talents have you personally made or are committed to making in the future to further advance the success of our school district? Again, every resident is a shareholder in the success of our school district. What additional investment of time or talents have you personally made or are committed to making in the future to further advance the success of our school district?
Well, recently I've been spending a lot of time going to committee meetings and board meetings, but we have a watchdog program here in a lot of the schools, and one of the things, what that is, where the dads go in and you pick a couple days out of the year, 2-3 days out of the year, what you can provide. And you go in and you work with the kids, you go into the classrooms, you help out with projects around the school, and you kind of become an extra hand. And the students, it's amazing how well they respond to that. So, with that program, there's many other things that they ask you to do. You can go in and help out with, carnivals and gardens and everything else like that. I would like to see more opportunities for involvement by fathers. We can go in and, a lot of the moms like going to class, but they kind of got a hold on that. You can't quite get in that classroom with the moms. But I'd like to see more, activities for the dads actually, and where things need to be moved as opposed to hiring out hands and actually asking for the help from the fathers.
In the past, I've been involved in several things with the district. I think I mentioned earlier in my opening remarks, I've sat on the Pioneer Ridge Site Council since my senior was in 7th grade, and I now have an 8th grader. She'll be stepping down, so I'll actually be stepping off of that because I won't have a child in middle school coming up. I've also sat on the high school site council and served on that for the last 4 years. In terms of what I've done in the past, I've been involved in several of the committee meetings, and as I mentioned, numerous presentations and what have you on certain project types. But in the future, I've actually stepped down from Johnson County Planning Commission in October. I stepped down from the Johnson County EDC in December. So I think my commitment in terms of future opportunity if elected to the board is very similar to what I've had on the boards that I've been on in the past, and that is available to people that want to talk after meetings, before meetings, and weekends if need be. I'm committed to doing what I need to do to help to the board and be a productive member of the board, utilizing the skills that I do have and things that I need to learn and meet with people. I don't know a lot of the teachers. I said this earlier. I know the teachers that are involved in the site councils and the teachers of my children, but I don't know a lot of the teachers, and I know they impact more than anything what takes place on a daily basis inside the district.
Well, as far as my commitment to the district, as stated in my speech, I really want to be available to our community. I want to be accessible. I want to get in there and support our district. If elected, of course, I'll be attending board meetings and actively participating in those district events. I love this community, and my career has recently put me in a position to where I've been able to get involved in community organizations. I'm really enjoying getting to know the people. I've had a great time getting to know even the teachers. And I simply want to figure out what I can do to make an impact in this community. So whether it's through the school board or supporting my daughter as she goes through her last 2 years of high school, I'll be doing that. But I will be playing to my strengths, and I hope to be an asset to this community on many levels. Thank you.
Okay, Joel, last question. There were several these submitted this evening, so I'm going to summarize them. And it begins with, why should I? But I'm going to rephrase that to say, why should all of them, why should they trust you to make decisions about education? Again, why should they trust you to make decisions about education?
That's a good question. I don't know that you should trust me to make decisions about education. I think you should trust me to make decisions about policies related to education. I think that any board member, I'm not an educator. I never have been. I educate to the best of my abilities with my kids inside my own house. But I do think that what I provide is a business background, a planning background, and a lot of the aspects of the functions of the district that happen on a daily basis outside of educating our kids. I think the teachers at least involved with my kids have done an absolutely phenomenal job. So I don't know that I would tell anybody that does their job something that I don't know anything about. But on the other hand, I do think I know a lot about some things that help the district run and how buildings go together, how things take place in terms of setting policies. I've been involved in enough boards to know that it is run by committee. You have one vote, and that is you have to work through the things that you may not know enough about with the other members on the board. So I think it's important that I bring some experience on some things outside of education, but are absolutely definitely related to how the district runs.
My entire career has been spent in education, but more importantly, it's been spent in the management side of education. And so I've had the extreme privilege of taking schools that have done some really great things and helped them to raise the bar. I've taken schools that are struggling and at risk for closure and was able to directly impact their financial success. I've had an extreme passion for quality schools. I really just think the two go hand in hand. And I've got a track record. And so if you're asking, can you trust me? I would invite you to come and visit with some of my parents that I've had the privilege to serve. And I believe that you will hear them say, yes, you absolutely can, and here's why. And they can list the reasons. I think you can take some time and talk to my teachers. And while there's times tough decisions have to be made as an administrator, at the end of the whole process, you know who benefits? It's the teachers. I love to take care of my teachers. So if you're a teacher out there, guess what? That is a huge, huge passion of mine. It's near and dear to my heart. So I believe without a doubt you can trust me, and I hope to prove that to you.
I'm like Joel said, I'm not gonna, it is not within my range to basically know everything there is to know about education. There are subcommittees and educational services committees that have our administrators, teachers, community members that go over much of the curriculum, and all the stuff that's basically needed to educate the children, the students. They go through that, and I'll tell you what, it's interesting to sit in those committee meetings. Regular board meetings are boring, those committee meetings are more interesting. And then they sit there and talk about these things. And they ask tons of questions in there. Once they're actually done with that process, they basically come up with a plan that they submit to the board. So by the time it gets up to the board, a lot of the questions and a lot of the ideas have been ironed out. And at that point, the board members have to then educate themselves on what was discussed in those meetings and make sure that they match up to the principles that they feel that are needed. So the details of an educational plan, the board is not going to decide. We're going to basically trust in the committees and ask questions to make sure that we're well informed enough to actually make an informed decision on that everybody can trust.
Well, again, thank you all for joining us this evening. Please join me in thanking them for being. I'd like to say, on behalf of the entire Gardner Area Chamber of Commerce, thank you all for coming out this evening.